Bahamas government, from Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Public Service, Department of Labor. And take it one step further, he lectures at Southern College of Business and Public Administration. He is an ordained deacon, a member of the Southeast Rotary Club of the Bahamas, and serves on the National Junkanoo Committee. He is a husband and a father. We have in studio tonight Mr. Mark Bethel. Welcome to Table of Change.
Welcome, and thank you very much for having me. I'm extremely flattered by having this opportunity to come and share with you and to talk about customer service. So I look forward to our discussion this evening, and again, thank you and Ms. Moxie for inviting me.
Let me just get something in here tomorrow. I want to say his name is S. S. Mark Bethel. And before we go any further, I saw service at the best tonight. We have the producer that's here tonight. You know, something went wrong at the beginning, but you should see him, guys. You should see him moving around to make it all work. So is what I call service. Because even though something went wrong, he showed me that I am doing my best. So hats off to you, sir. Sadness, job well done. Let's go.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. So glad to hear that. Now, what S. Mark Bethel? Now, you heard how I introduced you. You're an Anglican. So you're a man that believes in order. You have these degrees, a bachelor's and a master's. You're a well-educated man. But one thing that stood out to me was I heard that you're on the National Junkanoo Committee. So I got to ask, who's your group of choice?
Well,
Can you answer that for us?
Well, I served really for the last 20 years, really. I initially started as a judge, worked with the judging supervisors who used to work with the training team in terms of helping with Ms. Knowles and Ms. Sharman and the teaching and the training and Ms. Nash and all of the other persons that trained them. And so you basically now taking a more laid back approach, allowing different people and other people. So I don't really have no group because really, if there's any group that I've worked with, I've really been Barabbas and the tribe, because he has, to me, stood out as working with a tremendous amount of young people. And when I met up with him more than 25 years ago, he had a whole cadre of young persons. And as I travel around, even today, persons hail me. And, you know, sometimes because I teach and because I am involved in different things, you don't always remember where people are from. And they say, from Barabbas. And these are persons in the police band, in the defense force band, on the police force, and in various working places where I go. And so if there was any group really that I was connected with, it would have always been really Barabbas and the tribe.
But Jackie, you heard the way I set that up. I set that up saying he has a bachelor's and a master's. He's an Anglican. I thought for sure he was a Baptist.
Not
You
tonight.
couldn't tell me as an intelligent man he wasn't a Baptist. But I'll give you Barabbas and the tribe. They are a well-respected Junkanoo group. I'll give you Barabbas and the tribe.
And it is the work really that he does that impresses me. In fact, their parents really go to the Valley and the Saxons and one family and what have you, and send their children to Barabbas.
Wow.
So that was the unique thing in finding that out. And so, you know, and him and Reginald and myself, we worked together trying to find sponsors, trying to keep them organized and in the yard and keeping them busy and doing things. And so to me, he's really been the practical example of customer service in terms of making certain our young people. And he has a tremendous amount of respect for people all around because he is concentrated. He didn't get the big money. But he's able to make fun for our young people and getting them to the parades. And then he shifted a little bit now to more tourists, you know. And so that's really in terms of affiliation with any group, it really would have been there.
Right.
That leads me to my first question. You have so much knowledge. It's like so many questions I can ask you right now. But my first one is, how can we prepare the youth for the workforce? How could we now take, like how you said, that Junkanoo and instilling in these children, how could we now just create a good and prepare them for the workforce?
So, in order to understand that, you talked about me having an impressive resume, but I am an ordinary person that really grew up in Farrington Road, a product of a mother that was a single woman that had 5 children, and that walked from Farrington Road, Summer's Edition, to St. Agnes Church, which was really a 30-minute walk, and we went there 3 times on Sunday.
Wow.
And so it really starts with this whole concept that the village, about villages raising children, because she had to be at Betelco sometimes on a shift for 7 to 2. So that was too early for us to go to school. So we had to go to the different neighbors around. And my mom didn't have any brothers and sisters. She was the only child. So everybody through the corner and over the next 2 blocks over were aunts and uncles. So that is how the 5 of us, we had to stay there until 8:30 because we went to Wilton Aubrey on Nassau Street and then went to school. So they didn't want us to get dirty before school started. So really to do that, you really had to have a whole village that had an impact on the way we raise our children. So everybody was Mrs. and Mom and Auntie and Uncle, and their children and us all grew up, and we still today are first cousins, even though my mom didn't have any brothers or sisters.
Wow.
That's how close we was in the community. So that's how you have to do it. So no one set of parents can do it. Don't care how good your parents are, they can't raise you by yourself.
Community is
Community.
powerful.
And the Farrington community was very powerful for me. And so I knew everybody from Farrington Road down to Nassau Street, down to Palermo Street, down, going over on the Hospital Lane and going into St. Agnes Church, because I walked that so often. And then I walked it going to St. John's College on Market Street. Wow. So I knew those people. I knew the bad boys, the good boys, the bad families, the good families, whatever way you want to call them. You know, all the boys used to get in trouble. I knew them by name. They went to school with me. But these were still my friends. You know, I knew what they were doing. They knew what I was doing, and they knew what I was stood for. And so it was a matter of knowing what you want, knowing what you stand for, and being a part of the village that didn't have to affect you or influence you in a negative way. So you can't say your friends tell you to do it. None of you knew. I knew I never wanted to smoke, so I never smoked in my life. I knew I never wanted to drink, so I didn't drink. So people can't influence you to do things that you don't want to do.
So, Mr. Bethel, the song, you're taking me right back to what we end with last night. Self-governing is very important.
Well, a part of that, and then I had a mother that really didn't play, she had to work hard. And she wasn't playing this thing what we could call social services. She was the police and social services. So you knew you were going to be disciplined. You knew that she worked hard and you didn't want to disappoint her. And you knew you had potential. So you had to get the best of that environment. And I had a good fortune. The good fortune. Church did well for me. I went to church. I was able to be around people who could read and write. I went to school. And so I was able to spread that. And so I tried to influence my children to take advantage of that. And thank God they did.
Well, so we cannot, I think it was, I'm not sure it was last week, but we have, some people hold on to single parent. But listening to you, single parent does not cause you to not be able to raise your children and discipline them and teach them the way that they should go.
Single parent will, if you try to do it and say, this is my child, I don't want nobody saying anything to my child, doing anything to my child, or in any way have any influence on my child, then you are bound to fail. But in my experience, the single parent was that all the people in St. Agnes knew me, had influence on me, and they knew my mother, so they could have reported me. All the people in Wilton Albury All the people at St. John's College, they knew my family and they knew my mother. So, and all of them have direct impact on me. So this ain't no one person really I could credit because everybody had an influence. Everybody allowed. They volunteered in the Boys Brigade. They volunteered at the serve on the altar. They volunteered at the school in the sports. So, so you can't really be selfish. And that's why I try to help as many people as I could because I'm the beneficiary
Of
of a community that helped me.
wow.
Walking the Boys Brigade on Tuesdays at St. Agnes, Fort Company, serving on the altar. And people like Rafi, Rafi Cartwright, who's the father of Archie and Keith Cartwright, you know, Father Anthony Brown. They were the people Father Brian Colbrook, my older brother. These are the people who were the big boys and they gave the influence and they didn't play with us. So we were fortunate. So to not take our children to be involved in positive stuff will be a detriment to, will be a
I
detriment
like how
to.
you said your mother was the police and social services. I like how you said that. That means she played such a big part and had such an impact on your life. Now, Mark, we have questions coming at us from Zoom. We also have callers calling in, and I also had one of the listeners text me this message. She wants to know how, looking at your economics background, how can we sustain a healthy financial portfolio to prepare us for retirement?
Now keep in mind I ain't representing nobody. I
No.
just having a conversation.
Yes.
Mhm.
But understanding economics, one of the things is that you have to understand that we have to live at the level that we are at. And so we can't let all those people on TV trick us into things, Everybody want a bag. But what is that bag? How is it that I get this bag? How is it that I accomplish this bag? And sometimes a lot of us don't want to do the necessary hard work. And the hard work may be that if you learn the lesson to get a reasonable job, to begin to want to get a bag, or we see things and don't know how people get it. And your mom them know what they was talking about. Your pa know what they was talking about when they say don't mind because you're not the neighbor
Yes.
get that. And so it comes back to personal discipline and understanding what you want and understanding the pathway to get where you want to get. And so if you're in personal, that's why it's so important that you identify early what you want to be. So once you identify that early, then you go and understand the criteria. That's why we have careers day. That's why we have college fairs day. That's why we have in primary school dress up to be what you want to be. Because that's
Yeah.
where the influence start. And if you start to dress up now
Yes.
to want to be a pilot, well then we have to start to make sure that you understand maths and geography and understand the things that you have to learn to break down the radio and to build it back up, to break down the phone and to build it back up, to break down the computer and break it back up. Because you have to learn that basic engineering to learn to be able to fly a different type of engineering equipment. So
We
the economics becomes understanding and then becoming disciplined with what you have.
Mhm.
Well,
we
go ahead, Tamara.
sorry, we always say live within our means, but thinking from an economics point and just trying to, you hear that statement, but I'm sure people are trying to live within that needs. So I'm wondering if we could bring it to the table to try and clarify a little bit more. So if I'm making, let's say, $3,000 a month, and I'm now in the market to get a home, what should be the range I'm looking for to pay in a mortgage if I am looking for a home and making $3,000 so I can be sure that I'm, looking within my means?
Okay, so I don't need nobody to stake me out. But when you're looking at your means, and if you're making $3,000 a month,
Uh,
your mortgage payment ought not to exceed a third of your salary. In fact, so whatever your salary is, it ought not to exceed a third of your salary. And the principle simply is this. Because at some point you have to fix the house. You have to paint the house. Sometimes you have to clean the yard. Sometimes you have to do other basic things. You ain't live here. To live is 15% of your income, which is what? That is, I need to do some hygiene. I need to eat. That ain't nothing yet to do with the utilities. Your PEC bill or BPL, your telephone bill, everybody has a telephone. That has nothing to do with the children. So when you look then at most of us are living in homes that we ought not to be living in because it's too expensive. It's too expensive. We live in areas we ought not to be living in. Okay? Simply because it's too expensive. And Nassau is a very, very costly place to live. And so we look at where everybody else lives, but we are not mindful. And that's why you could see that personal economics tells us that there's some basic stuff that you must do. And to answer your question directly, it's really 30%.
30%.
Yeah.
The next
It should
question
not
that's
exceed
being
that.
asked of you is if you're at the age of 55, should you be now looking to get a mortgage? Is that good, a sound economic decision to make in terms of looking out to get a mortgage at the age of 55?
But quite frankly, most times you even ain't get it. And even
Mm-hmm.
if you qualified, person won't give it to you because in the grand scheme of things, if you just qualifying at 55, you basically have a waking life of 10 years.
Yeah.
So most people ain't give you a mortgage because you ain't going to be able to afford it. Unless you have a very, very 1% job in this country that will permit you to do that.
But
So
just make
at
sure.
55, you really helping your children and grandchildren get a house. That's really what you're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah.
You can't get that at 55. Banks really stop looking at you at 50. So they're going to let you use 50 to float to 60. And like the Bible says, if by wait you work for government, maybe 65.
Maybe 65.
And so you really ain't qualify. It's not practical. And you are so stressful you could die even of a premature death if you try to even take a mortgage at 55.
Well, I think at 55, you probably need to have a lot of money saved, or someone died and left you with some monies. And if you get a small house, you probably will be able to, because mortgage could go for 15 years depending on the size of the house. So if you bless and have those things going for you at 55, that's probably the only way that you can get it.
But keep in mind, those are the things that I talked about. And then keep in mind your health. Most of us don't eat well, we don't exercise properly, and then we have a lot of stuff going on. And a lot of us, we don't find out until the last minute what we have going on. And so, and then we tote a lot of stress with us. So it's really not a practical thing
Not practical.
from financial or even health-wise to
You're right.
take on that kind of a commitment.
Let's talk about work, your work environment. Like you're in the government labor as well, right?
I am.
How do you see, or even let's go beyond your workplace. Let's go where you used to work at National Insurance. How is service now than when it was, let's say, 10 years ago?
Okay, so I don't even have to talk about work, whether it's at labor or not.
Okay.
Let's not even talk about work. Let's understand when we're talking about customer service, what we're talking about.
Okay.
And customer service really has to do with the kind of respect that we have for ourselves. Because if you don't respect yourself, it's going to be difficult and very challenging for you to respect other people. So as simple as parking, as simple as driving on the road. So we even ain't entered the place yet because we could see that a car is waiting to turn into a parking, but because we are so selfish and we don't want to walk more than 2 steps from the door, we're going to sneak in there and cause undue and unnecessary issues. So when we talk about customer service, when you walk into a lot of our business, I'm surprised some of them still open.
Wow.
The level of poor customer service in this country is almost unacceptable. And that's simply because we don't respect each other and we don't respect ourselves. You can't be understanding that your livelihood depends on the people who's coming in here, and you are so flippant and so rude. Like to be so rude, outrightly rude, and to be flippant with other people to the point where, like, you see them there, but you act like you ain't seen them.
Yeah.
Like the language you use, like the way you approach them. Like, I just rude for no reason. I rude because I have the authority to be rude. I rude because I'm in charge here. I rude because I'm the manager here. And that should really be the reasons why you're not rude. You should not be rude.
Yeah.
And so we really have to do, but then we are tourist place. So then we go over the bridge and we turn into a different place. Or we go out west and we turn into a different place when we go at Bahamas, Ladders, because we want to be polite to the guests. So why we can't be polite to our friends?
Mr. Bethel, this because like you said, customer service is just unacceptable, and that is how Table of Change was birthed, because me and Tamara, we saw a problem, and that's why we are looking now for solutions to this problem, and we're not going to give up on it. Along with people not respecting themselves to give customer service, what about the managers and the supervisors who are not managing and supervising these persons?
We can go in any business. Just walk in any business, and you can see that it's almost difficult to tell who's the manager because all of them so rude. It's just difficult to tell who's in charge. And sometimes it's even disappointing because the manager is the one who's rudest the most.
Yeah.
And then, but then you could go some places. I work in the family areas. I stopped at McDonald's, and there's a bright-skinned lady that manages McDonald's there in the morning. It's almost a pleasure to watch her work because she is able to, speak to everybody. Even when she's giving orders, she gives orders to her staff, and they can take them because she's so pleasant. And then I could go to a next restaurant, and I hear the manager speak to the people, and I'm saying, I don't know why these people take this. And you would wonder why people ain't coming to work.
I think I know that bright, short lady, and I commended her before, but because you said you saw that one person, it really, there's a smile on my face tomorrow because it's a silver lining that it can happen. Yeah. It can change. Yeah. We just need people to be firm and to
She was firm with her staff. She gave them orders. I need help on the drive-thru. I need 2 cups of coffee, please. And she's walking, and she is not idle, and she's helping. And so why you been waiting so long? Oh, please forgive us. And she's talking, and she's walking, and so that is really customer service at its height. And I really have to commend McDonald's and Palmdale for this lady. I asked her name because it was just such a different experience this year. She told me. It escapes me right now. But
I
there's
would
too
say
many of our places that we walk in.
The service is good at that McDonald's, but every now and then, McDonald's, we need you to get it right and also have ice cream on Sundays.
And so this is why with Table of Change, we really want to go hand in hand with the different companies, different business, so that they can support the show and so that we can help the other ones. Because you can be at that same McDonald's and there's someone right there who's really big. When I worked with Craven, and it was a lot of work talking to all of the McDonald's, but there are some there who really do a good job. I would even call McDonald's head office and tell them what their experience is. They promise that they'll call me back. They never do. So that is why they continue to do things, because when you report and let them know what's happening. You're not even getting any feedback.
And it's really only simple things when we're talking about customer service. It's really only simple things like acknowledging with a careful good morning,
Yes.
eye contact, a smile, saying good morning, good afternoon. When person need help, to give 100% undivided attention. One of the things that really, really upsets me today is the amount of persons that are serving people, but they want to be on their phone. You
Yeah.
know, you cannot, to be on your phone and to be speaking with somebody, we need to tell people and we need to let them know it is disrespectful. I don't care how much you think you're multitasking. I don't care how much you think you're doing. It is disrespectful to be on the phone and to be speaking with somebody else. They ought to receive your undivided attention. And until we understand this and think it's modern or think it's hip or think, because when you look at it, especially in the workplace, we're having so much issues with young people who want to be on the phone, who want to be doing the work. And when you look at the work, it is a lot of mistakes in it. It's because they're not being disciplined and not being focused. So, and that's the way customer service ends up being going out the door because nobody have a time to concentrate to do anything no more.
And that respect should go both ways. If she's serving you behind the counter, working at the establishment, and she should not be on her phone, I feel like you should not be on your
Most
phone
certainly,
making that
most
order.
certainly.
I feel like the respect has to go both ways instead of it being acceptable for everyone to give each other this half attention.
Yeah.
Another question.
I know wherever I
You know,
am, wherever I am, if you come to me for service, you can't come to me on the phone. Or finish, you have to finish that conversation wherever I am. If I'm in my men's group, if I am at church, if I am wherever I am, you can't come to me, to work or wherever, because we need to have each other's attention. We need to be respectful, and we need to be able to give each other the best service that we are able to give.
But why on the job? Why am I even having that problem with staff having their phone? That's an easy fix for me. I mean, because I'm just going to allow you not to bring your phone. I'll have a box called the phone box. Yeah. So there's some things that we tolerate on the job that we really don't have to. Yeah. I was at Premier and Porter's and I was speaking to one of the staff and he said, I don't know why it's a problem. Everybody's always on the phone here. Why they don't just take the phone? So we tolerate things and make things seems like it's so difficult, but it's really not hard.
Mm-hmm. We act like society has changed. So we act like somehow with technology and all of this advancement that somehow we have to now step a step forward, but not realizing by taking that step forward and accepting this cell phone as an extension of yourself, we're taking a big step backwards in terms of not having, productivity, in terms of customer service. So we have to stop allowing the times to dictate what is right, what makes sense, what will provide customer service. And I think that's the edge that the phone is having right now. But Mr. Bethel, I'm getting a question for you. She said, I have to ask you, with all of the economic unrest and hearing that the retirement age is being moved from 65 to 67, right now she's feeling concerned. Will there be funds available for individuals retiring in, let's say, the next 15 years?
So, okay. Now, keep in mind, I'm not an employee or speak for national insurance, but to understand, keep in mind now, Social Security, and we call it national insurance, is really a safety or a social safety net. And we regard it in economics as a transfer of payment. So we collect from people when they're doing good. In other words, they're working, they're healthy. They pay into a system. The government takes that money's collected and distribute it. They help the woman who having a baby, give her live birth. She's home for 13 weeks. They help her. They help the person that died. They give them $2,000 for the funeral. They help the person that becomes unemployed who have made the minimum amount of payments I think it's like 52. They help the person who retires. The issue that national insurance is having is simply this. Just think of your parents and how many children they have. And think of you, and then think of your children. So there's three sets of people we're talking about. Our parents had a lot of children. All of them are working. We had half the amount, and then our children having half the amount that we have. So we have a healthcare system that allows us to live longer. So that means we have less people going into the workforce. We have more people that we have to take care of because our parents now have aged or died, but aged for the most part, and we are now almost ready for retirement. But we have less people contributing into the system. But we now want to give more benefits. So you have a challenge whereby how do we fix the system? Because it is a governmental problem, because it's a government system, it may not always be the politically right thing to do when you do it. In other words, to raise the ceiling or to raise the premium.
Yeah.
Because we have less money coming in, but we have to pay out more money. That may not be politically expedient, but economically, that may be the best thing to do. Because we have to take care of more bills with less money. That's basically what happens. And so when you break it down and you understand that, the money will be there because it's backed by the government. It's just that you don't want that burden to fall on our children and our children's children. So we have to do some things today to take care of that. And so we have to understand, and some of the ways that they're looking at taking care of that, raising the age, because we live longer.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, we could give you all 2 years warning, but we really don't want you to go home at 65 no more. Go home at 67.
Right.
Okay? And so it's really for practical purposes, these things are being instituted.
That's really
Nothing
good
political.
to know.
It's very
That's
practical.
really good to know.
The premium has to be raised because we want more benefits. We did not understand how much people would have relied on the social network, on the social services. Right? Could you imagine if we had COVID and we did not have national insurance? Okay. So it serves its purpose, but it has to be very, very strategically managed. And you have to have the best brains and minds down there to be able to do the work. And that's a lot of heavy lifting to do, to invest the funds properly, to be able to determine what is beneficial. How am I going to be beneficial from it? And we have expanded the benefits with unemployment insurance. We've raised retirement benefits. We're raising the benefits for persons having children. And so, therefore, we have to also raise the premium.
I never really looked at it like that, but I looked at it in this vein. I just knew that a lot of people were not ready at 60 or at 65. Financially, they were not set to be saying, goodbye, you have to leave because you've reached the age. So I was just so happy they did it because now it gives person a few more years to try and make some things happen for them. But I'm just going to remind my listening audience that the number you ought to call, I know you guys are calling all of those numbers, but the number that is working tonight is 325-5403. That is the only one you can get us on. And toll free is 300-8255. So please call us. Table of Change. I think we have something, a message coming in. Let's see what is here. They're asking about the labor aspect of it. Like, can you clarify, like, what term do you recommend people when they have a new hire, someone hired that's new, the probationary period?
So those are, keep in mind, I ain't speaking for labor.
Okay.
So those are really, to understand is to understand that this is your business. And you need to honestly know how much time you need to be able to see if Mary Jane or Peter Paul is going to fit to
Yes.
be the kind of person you want. In some businesses, you could identify that in 3 months. In certain business, in other businesses, it will take 6 months. Okay, and so in your contract with your employee, you have to determine what is best for your specific business and what kind of person you're looking for. So now you can't expect to hire the person with the top knowledge and all of the top skills and ability, but you want to pay them on a bare salary or bare wage. So therefore, because you ain't gonna be able to retain that kind of skill. And then you have to look at what it is you need. Okay. Your business that you may want may not always need somebody with a degree. You may not always need someone with 5 BGCSEs, English and math O levels. You may need someone that passed 2 or 3 BGCSEs and they can function and learn your work. And so not everybody needs to have all of these glowing qualifications. So keep in mind, the University of the Bahamas really only prepares about 5% of our workforce. BTVI prepares about 85%.
Wow.
In other words, when you look at the skill set that they offer, so why not everybody's supposed to go to UB? Not everybody's supposed to go off to school. Because I don't need to send a plumber and a mason and a car mechanic to UB, but they need to go
The
to
technical.
BTVI. And so therefore, even as a country, then we need to know and to understand where our resources ought to go. Now, my nurse and my doctor need to go to UB because they're dealing with my health. Right? But my mechanic could go to UB. My plumber could go to,
BTVI.
My mechanic and my plumber could go to could go to BTVI. And so we have to understand. Look at the gifts of our children. We have to look at the gift of, we sit in these offices and we sit in the workplace.
Yes.
And we try to send everybody off to school. These children ain't responsible here. You can't make them up to go to school here. Why are you sending them off to go to school and you ain't going to be there?
But if truth to be told, there's money, there's lots of money in being a carpenter and being a plumber. Because you save even when you're in your own house and you don't have to do those work yourself. And what you said, it's just so profound, is that the employee needs to know when they have someone that's worth. They might not have the qualification, but if they have the attitude worth and they're buying into your business, you need not to keep that person at minimum wage if you want to keep them. That's what I heard you said.
Yeah. Because, when we look at the Employment Act and those kinds of stuff that gives parameters and guidelines, they really set the minimum. And what we say to employers that if you have and if you want the best and a better, a greater quality, then you have to pay better.
Especially if you're making it.
You have to pay better.
If your profit is more, why not?
And so we have to make certain that persons and employers and employees understand, and that persons may start here, and you have to start somewhere.
Yes.
But continue to, and that's why we always encourage people. When I was growing up, when you say go back to school, it was going back to evening school, A.F. Hadley or one of the high schools that did evening classes. But there's all kinds of institutes that helps us to train and to upgrade our skill. Today, you almost need a certificate for everything. People don't want no one coming to them to say that they could fix car or they could do their lawn if they can't produce and say they've been somewhere to learn how to do it properly. You ain't letting no one play in your hair. You ain't letting no one put on your eyebrows. We're going to look like your eyelashes or your face. Unless you know that they have a certificate, because they could be mixing the product wrong. You deal with somebody's eyes. You deal with somebody's face. You deal with somebody's hair. And so you ain't going to someone who ain't going to do it properly.
That's the
So
right thing.
therefore, you have to just make certain that the skill set is there.
Tamara, it's your time.
I like that. I like that the skill set. And I just wanted to add that I feel like everyone could benefit from taking a course at BTVI. You know, as
Yes.
simple as if you just take a plumbing course or any a little general maintenance course, I think that everyone could benefit from that in order to help them for now when they get a mortgage or when they get a home to cut down on expenses because they have so many interesting things that you could take up and useful and practical things that we need in this society. But Mr. Betha, we're not going to let you off the hook. We know all of your expertise. We know how many different areas you were in. But give us a moment to get to know S. Mark Bethel. What is the secret that you are the head of your household? You serve in Rotary. You're a deacon in your church. What is the secret, or what give you the impotence to now take on so many roles of service?
I think it's really from a profoundness of understanding that I was extremely blessed and privileged. I wasn't better than nobody else, but I was just simply blessed and privileged. And as I said at the top of the show, I had the opportunity to be around people like William Bill Wallace, you know, you know, Sebastian Campbell and Brian Kohlberg and Ranfilly Brown and a lot of priest people in church. I spend a lot of time in church, so I'm very affinitive. I have and lately, to be around people like Bishop Dalton Fernando and Tyrone Knowles, quality people. So I've always been privileged. So I've always pushed that, and I pushed that in my children, where you need to be able to be the best that you could be. You could be anything you can be today.
That's right.
See, in my mother's age group, they wasn't sure what they could have been. We began because we had that biggity spirit, believed that we could almost be what we wanted to be.
That's
my
a good
children
thing.
definitely know that they can do what they want to do. And so, therefore, it comes from that of knowing that you're blessed, with having the opportunity, and therefore to make sure bless others around you. So I do a lot of tutoring.
Wow.
I tutor a lot of people. In my workplaces or persons who I know doing exams, I help them. Now a lot of them think I'm very strict because I take that kind of work very serious. Even when I'm teaching, I always have to. I'm very strict in the classroom, right? And that's because I take it very serious, and I had that opportunity, and so I pass on the opportunity. And just like how children, and I didn't really appreciate it too much when I was growing up. A lot of people don't appreciate it while I'm doing it.
Yes.
Because they think I'm very strict. But then in the aftermath, you always hear. They always come back. They
Always
come
come
and look
back.
for me. My students never like me when I teach them, but they love me after I teach them. And so they come back to me, and then they harass me on the campus afterwards and tell me, "Oh, Mr. Bell, that was a very good thing we had. I like how you conducted the class." So what we want to do is to, I'm a very grateful person, and so it's out of that gratefulness that I'm heading, go back to Rotary to go do more service, go back to the church, helping the church wherever I could. As you know,
Yes.
I conduct a lot of the Bible study. I do a lot of the training, in the workplace where I've been given the opportunity. At one point, I used to be trained when I was at the public service. So I give back a lot because I've gotten a lot, and I'm very privileged for that opportunity. And then my children have been able to receive a lot, so I try to see if I could force them to do some of that.
Wow.
Giving back.
Yes. The foundation, man. The foundation is really, really important.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, Tamara, just 1 minute. And if today's world, I know we say the children are different, the parents are not doing what they're supposed to do. But if the parents don't do it when they come on the workplace, we got to start it. We can't give up. We have to start it. The children want a job. They want to make their own monies. So we have the opportunity to reform them when they come in the workplace. I'm not going to give up on that. We can, if we affirm with them and teach them, there can be a difference. Something you said about after the fact, when your parents were really strict with you, all the people around the community were strict with you, then you go back, in school you were strict, they go back and say, you really helped me. Yeah. It's the same way when a rude customer come to you. You don't worry about those rude customers. I like the rude customers because before they leave my wicket, when I was at the bank, with the smile on my face and coming from my eyes, they're going to give me a smile and they're going to apologize for what they did. Tamara, your question.
I just had to squeeze it in because they're coming at us from questions from all angles on Zoom and texting the question. And she said, please ask you. We always hear save. How much of your salary should you be saving every pay period?
Okay, so and we have to take a very practical approach to it. All right. So I'm taking now that this is the young person that has gotten a job and they're still in the home. And we normally assign a medium bill to them. Cable bill. We don't normally start them with the BEC bill because that's almost like a mortgage. But we start them with a minimal bill. They should be saving, if they don't have any children and they're in the workplace with a reasonable job, they should be saving a minimum 50% of their salary.
Yes.
Because they don't have no real overheads. They contribute to mommy. They give mommy something and they pay a little bill and everything else is taken care for them. So they should save a minimum 50 to 60%. Now, we have a lot of young people that go into the workplace and they may have a child or they may have to contribute more because one of the parents aren't working. They then have to save, but probably not in the ability to save as much. They really should be saving 15 to 20%, especially if they're still in the home and not paying the rent or the mortgage. Minimum, you should be paying that because that's what you're preparing for.
Tamara, Mazel, Keva, Travonia, he said something. The children can give the mother something.
Oh yeah, you have to give your mom.
Tamara, did you hear that?
The daddies,
I hear it loud and clear.
Wow.
The daddies don't really want too much. They get to make sure you take care of your mommy.
Wow.
Right? But the mummies made sacrifices that we don't even know about. Mummies didn't eat lunch plenty days. Mummy didn't buy some dresses certain days. Right. Mummy didn't do some things. And so we really cannot begin to understand the profound sacrifice that the mothers in our country make. And so as soon as you're working, you have to, and most people that do work, they take care of their mothers.
Wow. Look here. You're doing it right, even in your home. That's why you're doing it right. And you're right that mothers, because I do it. I go without lunch sometimes. I go without a vacation for years. But guess what? I enjoy doing it.
And all mothers really want, they really ain't want too much, They really only want the children to do well.
That's what we want.
They don't want nothing from them, but it is the children's obligation to make sure mommy straight.
Yes.
It's their obligation. Because they know how to swing things, they know how to make things happen.
Wow.
When daddies say, I ain't got it, and what you want me to do? Mummies will say prayers and go to church and find a way to make things happen.
Wow.
And so that's why mummies has always been more spiritual in leading homes as opposed to fathers. We thank God where they are. But the mothers have been doing it a lot.
I have a big smile on my face. Go ahead, Tamara, with your question.
But what we always say, Jackie, if you pray for something, that mother's prayer, something for your children that could come, whether that be $5, $500, $5,000, it's going to come on time. So there is something powerful about a mummy and making things happen. Now, this question was just squeezed in. And the question is, in order to save that 15% or more, how is she able to do that and still pay her 10% to the church?
Well, the thing it is that to understand tithing is to understand that everything I have comes from God. So you can't look at it as a percentage of anything. To understand it is to understand that God has made all of this possible for me. And what I'm really doing can't begin to do
say
anything,
thank you.
but it is out of an appreciation of God's grace to me and my family that I am making this contribution. And so we talk about 10%. So really tithing really is a commitment to self, of the best of what you have.
Man, without even putting in the 10% with God, it all belonged to Him.
It
You
all,
belong to Him. And guess what He did? He put everything in you that you would ever need. It's
Correct.
already there. So why not?
Yeah.
Just walk this journey through, go through the fire, walk it through and bring out what He has already put in you. That's what I teach my children. It's in you already. Two beautiful children that I'm teaching the way to go. So parents, we just have to give the children the foundation and they will all do well. Whether it's home in your house, whether it's on the workplace, whether it's in the community. It's all going to come together. Tamara?
One question from Zoom. She said, "What about no matter what your budget is or how much money you make, your budget should always involve savings?"
Always. You always find a commitment to pay. In the church, we call it collection, tithes, offering. So you always give a collection, a tithe, or offering, and we always save. So you're always thanking God, and you're always looking out for a rainy day. Those are the two. And then everything else works itself out.
Someone have a question in the Zoom? Ms. Robinson? Okay.
Hello. You guys can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had it on mute. No, I just put the question in the group. I thought that someone would have read it. Mr. Bethel, I just want to ask a question in reference to all of the savings and having separation of funds. What is your take on having a budget, no matter the amount you make? What is your take on budgeting?
Okay, so let's understand what a budget is. A budget really is an outline of how you are going to run, what you have brought in, your income. Two, what you are going to expense, or what you spend. So it gives you a parameter, an outline of money's coming in and the money's going out. It is mandatory to have a budget because when you write it down, then you see what you really owe. If it's in your mind, you will miss something. So the budget has to be, that's why they have to debate the budget. That's why they don't just say, we plan to. And that's why they commit to it, and that's why they have to pass it through the House. Because when 6 months down the road, we forgot what we planned to do. But no, we don't forget that because we go and we follow it all we can see. Well, we planning to build a hospital and so on, so on place. So that's why it has to be committed to writing. Well, the same thing in your family.
Yeah, it could bring on a high risk of mismanagement.
Yes, and so that's
And
why
so it
has to be committed to written to avoid being
it's just like the Bible says, right? You put your vision down and make it plain. That's basically about to make it plain. Write it down. I think you said something. You said it should be mandatory.
Yeah,
I'm a proponent of this. It guides, it organizes, it helps you in every area of your life.
Wow.
And people think that they can't have a budget because they don't have X, Y, Z in the bank.
Yes.
But no, you can make a simple budget of whatever it is that you have.
They don't know what they have because they haven't written it down. See, you have to write it down and look at it. See, that's the same thing when we tell our children about what you want to be. Write it down and tell me what it is. What are the steps for you to become a biology teacher? How you want to be a nurse, but you're scared of blood. But see, you'll know that when you write it down, you see all the things that nice have to do. You see?
Wow.
I'll come off now.
Yes. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you,
Robinson.
Mr. Bethel.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
man.
We have Mr. Williamson on the phones.
Yeah, a pleasant good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen.
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 Okay, hello?
We can hear you.
Yeah, I just want to contribute a little thing to this conversation that's going on. I noticed then that when it comes down to the father and the mother in the home, the mother gets all the credit from the mother and from the father. And the father discredits himself a whole lot, giving himself no credit and giving the mother all the credit. And I don't know if that is so in their case, but in my particular case, I feel shorted because the same thing that mother do, I'm not trying to take anything from the mothers. I respect the mothers, and they really go overboard for their kids. Okay? But I can tell you that the man, it's in my particular case, I bend over backwards for my kids. I deny myself my whole my life. I am 77 right now, and I went away on vacation once in my whole career. Okay? Just sticking on the job and making certain that my kids survive and provide for my kids and the kids' mother. You understand?
Yes.
And when I'm listening to these conversations, the man is they short the man so much. And we wonder why we have so much crime in the country. You know, I say that is the cause, but it sure contributes because the man feels slighted, he's cheated. And a lot of times some of these men actually fight with the kids themselves without a mother. You don't get any credit. You get lumped in the bad fellas, you know, with the bad fellas. And the man do it to himself, and the women do it to the man.
Mr.
Very
Williamson?
few women will say, "Hey, okay, let me level this playing field. My husband or my children's father is beautiful to the kids." You see?
Yes. Mr. Williamson, I'm gonna have him answer your question. It's only because we have 2 more minutes. That's why we want to answer the question for you, okay? But I agree with you. You're the mother and the father. So, Mr. Bethel?
I think he is right on with what he's saying.
Yes.
The reality, though, when we have 70% of our homes that are led by women, we have to face the facts of what is happening in the country. And so while, you know, I belong to men's group where I know all of the men that do well in their homes, that lead their homes. So I know plenty places where this exists, in the workplace, in the churches where I attend, whatever. So I know where a lot of men that do well. Yeah. It is just more that needs to be done, and we have to give, because I'm an example of it, we have to give more of the women. Because I told you, my mom raised 5 children. And that was no cake and no parking, no walk in the park.
Yeah. So we're not saying that some of them don't. It's just that the majority, Mr. Williamson. And so right now, it was a beautiful night, Mr. Bethel. I thank you for coming. You have so much knowledge. We know we're going to have you back when we are on the big screen. We're going to have you back. So tonight, thank you, guests. I am Jacqueline Fernanda Moxie.
Tamara Fox-Smith.
I'm Mark Bethel.
Thank you so much. Table of Change. See you next week. And don't forget, if you want to sponsor, please call 456-3749 or 804-2397.
The views expressed on this show, interview, or program are not necessarily the views expressed by the ZNS Radio Network and by extension, the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.